A woman will almost never say the words you expect to hear. She won't walk up, look you in the eyes, and clearly announce her attraction. That version of reality is clean, direct, and completely disconnected from how human behavior actually works. Instead, what she does is far more subtle and far more revealing. She touches something. And if you don't understand what that something is, you don't just miss a signal, you miss timing, you miss momentum. You miss the moment where interest quietly turns into indifference, because while you're waiting for words, she's already communicating in a language you were never taught to read. Here's the uncomfortable part. Most of these moments don't repeat themselves. According to research published in the Journal of Nonverbal Behavior, over 90% of emotional communication happens without spoken language. That means the most important part of your interaction with her is not verbal. It's physical, unconscious, and fast. It's happening through micro-gestures, especially through what she chooses to touch and when. So the problem was never that women are confusing. The problem is that no one ever showed you how to interpret what's already in front of you. Institutions like Harvard, Princeton, and behavioral labs such as the Kinsey Institute have spent decades studying attraction, nonverbal signaling, and human courtship patterns. And what they consistently reveal is this: attraction leaks through the body before it's ever admitted through words. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Because the final signal on this list, the one most men completely misread, doesn't look like attraction at all. In fact, it often looks like boredom or even disinterest. But in reality, it's one of the strongest indicators that she's already emotionally invested in the interaction. So pay attention, because the difference between noticing and missing it is everything. Let's begin. The first behavior is simple on the surface. She touches her hair. Most people assume this means nothing. Maybe she's fixing it. Maybe it's just habit. Maybe it's random. But psychologically, it's rarely random. Hair touching is one of the oldest courtship signals in human evolution. Anthropologist and behavior researcher Dr. David Givens has documented that when a woman repeatedly plays with, flips, or adjusts her hair in the presence of someone she's attracted to, it's driven by increased neurological stimulation. Attraction triggers dopamine and norepinephrine, chemicals associated with excitement and anticipation. That energy needs an outlet, and the hands are the fastest responders. The hair becomes a natural target. But here's the condition that makes it real. It's not the act, it's the repetition. One quick adjustment means nothing, but repeated rhythmic interaction with her hair, especially while maintaining eye contact or during pauses in conversation, reveals internal activation. Her body is responding before she even realizes it. The second behavior moves slightly deeper. She touches her neck. Most people interpret this as absent-minded behavior. Maybe she's just stretching. Maybe she's uncomfortable. But evolution tells a different story. The neck is one of the most vulnerable areas of the human body. Major arteries are exposed, and from a survival standpoint, it's a protected zone. When someone draws attention to it or exposes it, they are signaling trust. Behavioral researcher Vanessa Van Edwards has noted that neck touching increases significantly by measurable margins when women interact with someone they find attractive. Psychologically, this is a mix of vulnerability and self-awareness. She's not just soothing herself, she's subtly inviting attention to a sensitive area. And the condition that confirms it? Timing. If the gesture appears specifically during eye contact, laughter, or moments of connection, not randomly, then it's not casual. It's reactive. The fourth behavior is more intentional than it appears. She touches her lips. Most assume this is about dryness, habit, or coincidence. But studies using eye tracking technology, including research from the University of Manchester, show that lips are one of the most visually focused areas during attraction. Women, consciously or not, are aware of this. Touching the lips amplifies attention. It draws the eye, it creates contrast, it slows the moment down. From a neurological standpoint, this is a signaling mechanism. She is guiding your attention without saying a word. The condition? Eye contact. If she touches her lips while looking at you, not away, not distracted, that's not maintenance, that's communication. The fourth behavior is subtle but powerful. She plays with objects close to her body, especially jewelry. People often dismiss this as nervous fidgeting, and they're partially right, but they misunderstand what that nervousness means. According to psychologist Albert Mehrabian's work on emotional expression, self-touch behaviors increase when emotional intensity rises. Attraction creates internal tension, excitement mixed with uncertainty, and the body seeks release. Jewelry becomes a tool A necklace, for example, sits near the chest, a highly sensitive and symbolically intimate area. When she repeatedly touches it, adjusts it, or draws attention to it, she is unconsciously directing focus. The condition that proves it? Consistency within interaction. If the behavior increases as the conversation becomes more engaging, it's not baseline anxiety, it's situational arousal. The fifth behavior crosses into direct interaction. She touches you. Many people underestimate this completely. They think it's friendliness, politeness, social habit. But physical touch between two people who are not yet close carries weight. Research from DePaul University found that even brief, casual touch significantly increases perceived connection, warmth, and attraction. From an evolutionary perspective, touch is a risk. It breaks personal space boundaries. It tests receptivity. So when she initiates it, even lightly, it's rarely meaningless. The condition? She doesn't withdraw immediately. If the touch lingers, repeats, or happens more than once during the interaction, it shifts from accidental to intentional. The sixth behavior is indirect but revealing. She traces objects: a glass, a cup, the edge of a table. Most people never notice this, but former FBI behavioral analyst Joe Navarro has described object tracing as a displacement behavior tied to emotional engagement. The object becomes a substitute. It absorbs the physical expression she's not yet directing towards you. Psychologically, this reflects contained energy, interest that hasn't yet crossed into direct expression. The condition? Synchronization. If she maintains eye contact or mirrors your speech rhythm while doing it, the behavior is connected to you, not the object. The seventh behavior is evolutionary at its core. She adjusts her clothing. At first glance, this looks like self-consciousness or vanity. But in biology, this is known as preening. Across species, preening behaviors appear before courtship. It's about presentation, optimizing appearance in the presence of a desirable mate. Humans are no different. When she smooths fabric, repositions clothing, or subtly checks her appearance after noticing you, it's not random. It's adaptive. The condition? Sequence. If the behavior begins after your presence is established, not before, it's targeted. And now we arrive at the final behavior, the one most misunderstood, the one that changes everything. She rests her face in her hand. Most men see this and assume boredom, disinterest, fatigue, disengagement. But psychological research, especially studies conducted by Dr. Monica Moore on nonverbal courtship signals, reveals the opposite. This is called facial framing. When a woman gently supports her face, touches her cheek, or cradles her chin while looking at you, she is doing something deeply instinctive. She is presenting her face, highlighting her expressions, slowing the interaction, holding focus. This is not withdrawal. This is immersion. It happens when she's comfortable enough to soften and interested enough to stay engaged without distraction. The condition that proves it? Her eyes. If her gaze is steady, responsive, and emotionally present while her face is resting in her hand, she is not bored. She is absorbed. And that changes the meaning completely. Because now, what looked like disinterest becomes one of the clearest signs of quiet attraction. And here's the truth underneath all of this. None of these signals use words, not one. Because attraction doesn't begin in language. It begins in the body, in small movements, in unconscious patterns, in gestures that happen before thought catches up. And once you start noticing them, something shifts. Not in her, in your awareness. Because now, instead of waiting for clarity, you start seeing it. Subtle, unspoken, but unmistakably there. And that leads to a deeper question. If these are the ways attraction reveals itself without words, what happens when those signals are met or missed at the exact moment they appear?
Because understanding signals is one thing, but what they lead to, that's an entirely different layer of human behavior. And that's where things get even more interesting.